Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we like to, take a deep dive into all sorts of fascinating topics. I'm Brian, and today we're going to be tackling the paleo diet.
Okay.
This deep dive is for all our friends at the Detox Health YouTube channel. If you're looking for, some really solid health info and some amazing healthy cooking recipes, you should definitely check them out.
Oh,
Joining me today is Chelsea, a nutritionist who can help us unpack this trendy diet.
yeah.
Chelsea, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So the paleo diet, it's been huge for a while now, but the name always makes me chuckle a little. The caveman diet? I mean, come on.
Right.
Who wouldn't want to eat like our ancestors? Huh?
Well, it's not quite as simple as that.
Okay,
While the name might be catchy, paleo is actually short for Paleolithic.
I see.
We're talking about the period from roughly 2.6 million to 10,000 years ago,
Wow.
long before the advent of agriculture.
So this diet is all about ditching the modern stuff and going back to our roots.
Yeah.
Eating like our hunter-gatherer ancestors.
That's the basic premise.
Okay.
The paleo diet emphasizes lean meats, fish, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Basically anything our ancestors could hunt or gather.
Okay.
They also use healthy oils like olive oil and avocado oil.
That actually sounds pretty healthy, so what's the problem?
Well, the problem is that our understanding of both nutrition and the Paleolithic era has evolved quite a bit since this diet first became popular.
Okay.
For example, the paleo diet completely eliminates dairy products, grains, and legumes.
Oh, wow.
That means no bread, rice, pasta, beans, or lentils.
Wow, that's a lot of food groups to cut out. I love my morning oatmeal and my lentil soup.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see why this diet might not be all it's cracked up to be.
Exactly. And those restrictions can lead to some serious nutritional deficiencies. You might be surprised to learn that strictly following the paleo diet for a year could make you 30% more likely to develop a vitamin D deficiency.
Really?
That's because dairy, a major source of vitamin D, is completely off the menu.
Wow, I didn't realize it could be that significant.
Yeah.
So are there any other potential downsides to the paleo diet?
Yes. One major concern is the emphasis on meat, particularly red meat. While lean meats are a good source of protein, overconsumption of red meat has been linked to an increased risk of certain cancers, diabetes, and even a higher overall mortality risk. One study published in the Archives of Internal Medicine found that each additional daily serving of red meat was associated with a 13% increased risk of death.
That's pretty sobering. So even though it's based on the idea of eating like our ancestors, the paleo diet could actually be detrimental to our health in the long run.
That's a possibility, and it highlights the importance of looking beyond the catchy name and really understanding the science behind any diet.
So it's not as simple as saying cavemen ate this way, so it must be healthy.
Absolutely not. The human body and our dietary needs are complex, and what worked for our ancestors in a vastly different environment might not be the best approach for optimal health today.
So it's not just about what our ancestors ate, but also how those food choices translate to our modern lives and our individual needs.
Precisely, and that's something we'll delve into further when we examine the scientific evidence surrounding the paleo diet and its potential impact on various aspects of health.
This is already making me rethink everything I thought I knew about the paleo diet. I'm definitely eager to hear more about what the research says.
Sure.
But before we do that, let's take a closer look at some of the potential benefits people claim to experience on the paleo diet.
That's a great idea. While there are definitely some downsides, there are also some potential positives that are worth exploring.
Perfect. We'll dive into those after we'll dive into those right now.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so while there are definitely some downsides to the paleo diet, you're right, there's a reason this diet has remained popular for so long.
Yeah.
Some studies have shown that the paleo diet can lead to improvements in certain health markers. Well, for example, a 2015 study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that participants on the paleo diet experienced an average 15% increase in HDL cholesterol, that's the good cholesterol,
Oh, okay.
after just 12 weeks.
So there is some evidence to suggest it can have a positive impact on heart health, at least in the short term.
Exactly, and since the paleo diet emphasizes whole, unprocessed foods and eliminates sugary drinks and processed snacks, it's not surprising that many people lose weight on it.
That makes sense. Cutting out all those processed foods would likely lead to eating fewer calories overall.
Absolutely. But it's important to remember that the paleo diet isn't a magic bullet for weight loss. Any diet that helps you create a calorie deficit can lead to weight loss. The key is finding a way of eating that you can sustain over time.
So it's not just about the initial weight loss, but whether or not you can stick with the diet long term.
Precisely, and that's where some of the challenges of the paleo diet come in. The restrictions can make it difficult to follow for extended periods and may lead to feelings of deprivation.
That's a good point. And we've already talked about the potential for nutrient deficiencies. But what about the impact on gut health? We hear so much about the importance of the gut microbiome these days.
You're right, the gut microbiome, which refers to the trillions of bacteria living in our digestive system, plays a crucial role in digestion, immunity, and even mental health.
Wow.
And some studies have shown that the paleo diet can alter the composition of the gut microbiota.
That's interesting. So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it's complicated. Some research suggests that the paleo diet could lead to higher levels of a compound called trimethylamine N oxide, or TMAO.
TMAO.
Yeah, TMAO has been linked to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease.
So even though the paleo diet might have some initial positive impacts on heart health, there could be longer-term risks associated with its effects on the gut.
That's what some studies are suggesting, but more research is definitely needed in this area.
It seems like with the paleo diet, like with many things in nutrition, there's a lot of nuance and complexity.
Absolutely, and it's important to consider all of these factors, both the potential benefits and the potential risks, before making any major changes to your diet.
I'm also curious about the practicality of the paleo diet. Eating all those fresh, high-quality ingredients can get pretty expensive.
You're absolutely right. The paleo diet can be quite costly, especially if you're focusing on grass-fed meats, wild-caught fish, and organic produce that's not accessible to everyone.
And what about the environmental impact? We hear so much about the importance of sustainable eating these days. How does the paleo diet stack up in that regard?
That's a great question, and it's something to consider carefully. A diet that's heavy in meat, as the paleo diet often is, has a larger carbon footprint than a more plant-based way of eating.
So from a sustainability standpoint, it's not the most eco-friendly choice.
Not necessarily. It really depends on how you implement the diet and the specific food choices you make.
So there's a lot to think about when it comes to the paleo diet. It's not as simple as just eating like a caveman.
Definitely not. It requires careful consideration of your individual needs, your budget, and your values.
Before we dive into the research on the paleo diet, are there any groups of people who should avoid this diet altogether?
Yes, there are a few groups for whom the paleo diet is not appropriate, vegetarians and vegans, for example.
Right, that makes sense.
The paleo diet is centered around animal protein, so it's clearly not a good fit for people who don't eat meat.
Right, that one's pretty obvious. Who else might want to think twice before going paleo?
Athletes are another group who might not benefit from this way of eating. The paleo diet restricts carbohydrates, which are the primary source of energy for our bodies. Athletes need plenty of carbs to fuel their workouts and recover properly.
That makes sense. Restricting carbs could hinder their performance.
Exactly. There's also been some research suggesting that completely replacing carbohydrates with animal protein could have negative effects on lifespan.
Wow, that's pretty significant.
It is, and it highlights the fact that there's still a lot we don't know about the long-term health impacts of different dietary approaches.
This is all really fascinating. I'm starting to see that the paleo diet, despite its popularity, might not be the perfect solution it's often portrayed to be.
You're starting to get, it has its pros and cons like any diet, but it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all approach.
So where does that leave us? What's the takeaway message for our listeners who might be considering the paleo diet?
I think the key is to be informed and to approach any diet with a critical eye. Do your research, talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian, and really think about whether the restrictions and potential downsides of a particular diet are worth it for you.
That's sound advice. Don't jump into any diet blindly, no matter how trendy it might seem.
Exactly. And remember, there's no magic bullet when it comes to health and nutrition.
Right, it's about finding a sustainable way of eating that nourishes your body, provides the nutrients you need, and fits into your lifestyle.
Well said. It sounds like you're starting to understand the complexities of the paleo diet and the importance of individualized nutrition.
I am, and I'm eager to dive even deeper into the research on this topic, so let's do that now.
All right, so we're ready to dive into the research.
Yeah, let's get into it. Does the scientific evidence actually support the claims made about the paleo diet?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And unfortunately, the answer isn't as clear-cut as some proponents might suggest.
Okay.
While there is some research suggesting the paleo diet might offer certain short-term benefits, there's a lack of long-term studies to back up many of the claims made about its effectiveness.
So it sounds like the hype might be a little ahead of the science.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it's important to remember that many of the studies on the paleo diet have been relatively small and short in duration.
So we need more robust long-term studies to really understand the potential long-term effects. both positive and negative.
Exactly. And we need to be cautious about extrapolating short-term findings to long-term outcomes.
Right. You mentioned a study earlier comparing the paleo diet to the Mediterranean diet.
Yes, that study found that both diets were associated with reduced all-cause mortality. But it's important to note that the study didn't find the paleo diet to be superior to the Mediterranean diet for managing things like glucose and insulin levels.
So even though both diets have been linked to positive health outcomes, there's not enough evidence to say that the paleo diet is the be-all and end-all solution for optimal health.
Precisely, and this brings us back to the importance of individualized nutrition.
Right? Finding what works best for you, your body, and your lifestyle.
Exactly, and working with qualified healthcare professionals who can provide personalized guidance based on your specific needs and goals.
So before anyone decides to go full-on caveman, it's crucial to do your research consult with a doctor or registered dietitian and consider all the potential pros and cons.
I couldn't agree more. It's about making informed decisions about your health.
I've been thinking, what if we took a more moderate approach to the paleo diet? What if we incorporated some of the principles, like eating whole foods, minimizing processed foods, and added sugars, but didn't completely eliminate entire food groups?
That's a really interesting thought, and it's something that more and more people are exploring. Could a modified paleo diet that includes moderate amounts of whole grains, legumes, and maybe even some low-fat dairy be a healthier and more sustainable approach? It's certainly worth considering.
Yeah, I think so too. It would allow for more variety and flexibility while still emphasizing nutrient-rich foods.
And potentially reduce the risk of those nutrient deficiencies we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Food should be enjoyable, not a source of stress or restriction.
Well said. It's about finding a balance that works for you.
So to wrap things up, it seems like the paleo diet, while it has some potential benefits, isn't a magic bullet for health and comes with its own set of drawbacks. That's a fair assessment. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and the science just isn't there yet to fully support all the claims made about it. But a modified approach, incorporating some of the principles while allowing for more flexibility, might be a more sustainable and enjoyable way to improve your diet.
I agree. And as always, it's crucial to listen to your body, do your research, and work with qualified healthcare professionals to make informed decisions about your health.
Excellent advice. Chelsea, thanks so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise on the paleo diet. It's been an incredibly insightful conversation.
Thanks for having me.
And for all of you listening, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and find what works best for you on your health journey. And don't forget to check out the Detox Health YouTube channel for tons of delicious and healthy recipes that can help you nourish your body and feel your best. So that's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into a fascinating topic. Thanks for listening.